Okay, we're back to episode, I don't know, of Rayon CNC. So what's happening here is, the piece of stock I showed you earlier, this piece of metal, what I did was I drilled 3 holes in it, and then I used, it's actually over there, I used these wooden screws to then screw it into this spoil board. You can kind of see, let me lift you up actually. Oh, we're going on a ride. So, here's my piece of material which I want to cut out. This is the area which I've left for it. And you can see here I've drilled 3 holes and put 3 screws in to drill into this. To make sure it's straight, I just lined it up with this bottom edge right here, and that's pretty straight. Now, what we're going to do is currently there's a 1/4 inch drill bit end mill loaded into this. We want to take that off and install our 1/8 inch. I also have the collet in here. So, I'll set this back down. Okay, we're good. So, 2 wrenches. One has a small side, one has a big side. We want the small side going on top of the collet nut, and then the larger side going on the collet nut. So now you're like this, and then you're gonna pull them together. So you're gonna go inwards, and that way it starts loosening. Whoops. I'm gonna do that again. Boom. And then it should finish on threading, just like that. So here is the complete assembly. So there's an end mill here, there's your collet nut, and then your collet's on the inside. So how we're going to take this apart is push and then pull on the end mill. Don't grab the scary, dangerous sides, but rather the side that's not sharp. And then you're left with the collet nut inside your collet. And then how you do this is like this, down, and then you pull out. Just like that. 2 separate pieces. And so now what we're going to do, now this is pretty important, it's loading it up. So the steps are, you take your new collet, whoops, there's like plastic in there. You take your new collet and you put it inside your collet nut. So you should put it at an angle like this and push down, and then you'll hear the snap. I don't know if you heard that, but it snapped. So now if these 2 are together, it's not coming out. And then how you're supposed to do it is, I just put it on there just a little bit. I don't tighten it. And then you take your end mill and then you put it inside. So let me move the mic. So here's your end mill. You put it through, and then you just hold it with one hand while you tighten a little bit. Boom, that's tight. And then you take your 2 wrenches, and so rather than going inwards to loosen it, you're going to go outwards to tighten. Just make sure it's snug, doesn't fall out and hit you. We're good. Nice. So now we're done with the wrenches. We're going to take our end mill and our collet and put them back in the case, because these are sharp and we don't want them to become dull or anything. Now what's next is, let me move these. We're going to take the controller, and then now we have to set the origin. So what I'm going to do is, so remember how I wanted it on the top left? Now I'm going to go to the top left here of where I want the part to be and then mark that out. So what that means is I'm going to go Y minus to pull the gantry towards me. The angle's a little bad. I'll show you once I'm done. And then I'm going to go X plus, and this is all on fast. So remember I was talking about, if you want to get somewhere, go there fast for the most part and then slow it down. So you see I moved fast, and then I'm going to slow it down, and now I'm going to do Z carefully. So this is about where I want to set my origin, the top left of my part. So now I'm going to press X, Y, 0 in yellow, and then you'll see these values for X and Y become 0. Beautiful. And then, so if you actually see, if you note, there's one value which didn't become 0, which is your Z. So your Z is how high it is vertically. So what we're going to do is very slowly move our Z down manually, and then we'll set it. You can buy this thing called a touch-off puck, but ours broke, so we just do it manually. Or I just do it manually, honestly. But yeah, so if you press your Z once, you can see it goes down by 0.1 millimeters. A little slow, but whatever. You don't want to hold it, because holding it moves it pretty fast, and you don't want to run into your material with the end of your end mill, because it's an expensive end mill and you don't want to break it. So you get there, and then you just inch towards it, or I guess millimeter towards it, I don't know. And so what you want is your end mill to be just barely touching the surface of your material. You don't want it to be pressing down hard or not touching, just barely contacting. And so what's that's doing is it's setting the top of your material. So, a little tedious. It is what it is. You can use a reflection too, it's good. When the reflection and the actual end mill meet, it's easier to see what I'm talking about in person. And that's touching. So now I'm gonna press Z0, ZA0, and then I'm gonna clear Z. We don't have an A, which is the rotary thing I told you about. So now we're at 0, 0, 0, and then there's a 0 for the A, whatever. So this is where everything's going to be. Like I said, remember you have your origin, and if you go right 5, that's 5, 0. Same thing for the G code, so there's that, that's set. So I'm gonna pull up real quick. So now we're ready to run the file. But before that, so the end mill gets not too hot if you're running it conservatively, which is not too fast, but it does get decently warm. So to combat that, what I do is I have a spray bottle, which it's just this little IKEA bottle I bought and just donated to the team. It's just filled with water from the sink over there. So I just spray it occasionally, and that helps, one, cool down the end mill, dissipates some heat so it doesn't burn up the end mill and mess it up. But two, it also helps collect the chips. So while it's cutting the metal, the chips usually go fly everywhere, but the water's like surface tension just keeps it all in one nice pile. It's easier to vacuum. But no hearing protection, no goggles. I'm gonna put those on real quick and then we'll run it. Okay, so we're back, got the goggles on, hearing protection too. I remember I skipped one step, which is just plugging the USB into here. But so now what we'll do is we'll press run pause, and it pulls up the menu. We'll go to UDisk, and then if you remember, we named our file bore, and it says bore right here. So I'm gonna set the mic down. Where am I gonna set this? We'll just put it like right here. I'm gonna set the mic down, and then we'll actually run the file. So we'll select bore by pressing OK. We'll press OK. Oh, this is interesting actually. Speed scale. So in the software, InventorCam, we set our speed to a certain amount, right? But remember, that doesn't actually come over to this machine. So, okay, wait, I just completely fumbled with that. So we set our speed with the knob, right? Which is down there. But that's the speed that the end mill spins physically, rotations per minute, which is in the thousands. But we had different kinds of speeds, right? We also had the feed rate, which is how fast the end mill spins through the material, which you can't turn down like with the machine on the knob. How you turn that down is by using speed scale. So speed scale, if you can see, it's a value, it's a decimal point between 0 and 1. It increments in 0.1. So the speed scale of 1 means that the machine is going to be 1-to-1 to what your code says. So if your code says, I don't know, 20 inches per minute or something, I'm making up numbers, then in actuality, the machine will go 20 inches per minute. But if that's too fast and maybe let's say the template was wrong or something, or the material something's just not working out and you want to go slower, then you adjust your speed scale. You adjust your speed scale by doing the Y minus and the Y plus, which is right here. You can see the little F plus and F minus. So I'm going to set it, I'll just leave it at 1 for now, and I'm going to set my RPM to 11,000. So with the bore template, you want an 11,000 RPM, which if you go down here, you spin the knob and you set it until the screen says 11, and then we're ready to run. So I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna press OK.